let's talk about stretching and strength training. So these are two things that I like to include in all of my clients' trainings and of course in my training. And I want to talk about the balance of it. So I try to think of it like a triangle. So we've got on the base of the triangle, we've got strength and self-care. And that balances the skill, which is the top of the triangle. So sometimes you've got to work more in one area than the other. And the reason I say that is because if you come in injured, so a lot of people when they join Run RX, they're injured, they've got a shin splint, IT band, planters, you name it, something's going on. So immediately we're like, okay, we've got to really develop that foundation. We've got to work a little bit more on that strength and self-care so that skill stays. And then what's the skill? Well, the skill is the running. And then the running has its own triangle of the running, the gait cycle, the pose, fall, pull. That's your skill. Your ability to hold your body in line and your ability to pull your foot on time. Those are two things that you're going to have to practice forever. So being able to hold your body weight, this is huge in running, right? Everything in running is you balancing on one foot. Because in running, you're going to be on one foot, you fall forward, and then you're on the other foot. So you want to be able to do that repeatedly. It's about 1,500 steps per mile. So you want to make sure that you are actually able to hold your body weight and pull your foot on time. These are two things that are really going to make a difference in your run. So how does that relate to stretching and strength training? Well, because the reality is to be able to hold your body weight, it requires strength. You need strength to hold yourself up. So I want you to think of strength less as like weightlifting. Not important how many push-ups I can do to be a good runner. However, very important that I can hold my body weight in line. So you're right to understand that difference, right? I don't need to be able to squat 500 pounds in order to run really well. However, using the squat to develop a strong hip will help me in my run. So a long time ago when I first got into running, so it's been a lot of years, I was a strength coach first. I taught strength, I taught group fitness, I was a personal trainer, and runners would say to me, oh, no, I do not want to do any weights because I run and I really want to make sure I don't get any slower. In fact, a lot of people still will say, I go to do weights as a runner and I only do upper body. So I want to talk to you also, like when I say strength, I'm talking full body strength and in a way that helps you to hold your line. And the way that comes into stretching, by the way, I'm going to say self-care because I like to encompass all of it. Stretching, rolling, massage, self-massage, this is mobility work, all of the things we have to do to make sure that we can stay strong enough to go for our run. It's all connected. So just so you know, when I was younger, I never had to stretch. I'll be honest. In fact, my warm-up was kind of like a lot of people, get out of the car and go. And as you get older and as you start, of course, as a coach, what you start to realize is how important and mandatory really it needs to be. So warm-ups, so important. Now I will say this because this is real. Whether you stretch before or after is kind of a personal choice and also time, right? Some people run first thing in the morning. They're not going to get up a lot before they do it. So what I do is I have what I call Warm Up 1, and it's free on the app. It's on the YouTube channel as well. And it's basically a way to get your body, just a really small way to test that everything's kind of working before your warm up. And I consider that a combination of stretch and strength, like doing a glute bridge is strength, right? But then I also have seated hip openers, which would be considered a stretch. So I combine them. The reason you want to combine them is to check on yourself. And what do I mean by that? So runners in generally, like we don't have to be really flexible. I don't need to be able to do the splits in order to run. However, I do need to make sure that I can work my joint through a full range of motion, which is why as runners, we need to do like the runner's lunge, right? That's an important exercise. So I'm not going to take you through all the runner's lunge, but I have a couple of things out just because I wanted to talk about it. So one, I bought one of these things. And this is a lot of runners. We buy things, are we using them, right? I also use a foam roller. I laugh because I have a neighbor and he had an injury he came over to show me that he got a foam roller, and it was still in the, it was still had a, whatever, he hadn't taken it out of the plastic. And he's like, have you ever seen one of these? And I had to giggle. And in fact, my roller's not next to me. The reality, though, is that when the foam roller first came out, and I'm from Austin, and that's actually where like Trigger Point started. So all of a sudden, we went from never hearing about rolling to it was everywhere. Like people had the balls and the rollers, and then I used tune-up balls also. But in the beginning, we didn't have any of that. You just stretched. And most runners, the stretch was like you'd stand there, grab your foot, and this was our stretch, right? But why the quads? Because that's where most people feel their run, right? Or they think that's where I'm tight. So again, like I got this guy, I love it. And when I got it, people were like, oh, you should try this thing. It'll really help stretch your calves. Now this is important and it's something to understand, again with runners, right? So people think, well, if I stretch too much, I could have too loose of a muscle, right? If I overstretch, that can be a problem. So what's interesting is when I got this, I got on it, and immediately I was like, wow, that is a really interesting sensation when I first got it, because I have never stretched this deep, maybe is a good way to say it. And so the first time, just so you guys know, let's see, when I first got it, I, like everybody else, was like, I'm going all the way. And I got on here and I was like, whoa, that's, that's too much. Like today it isn't, I'm fine. But when I first got it, it was too much. Like, wow, I was like really feeling that stretch and my heels could not touch. So what did I do? I brought it down to a place I could, right? And then I also hold on when I use this and I work on opening up my whole line. Instead of just standing here and stretching, I work on opening. So I encourage, when I teach people to use this, to hold on to something. I'll hang from a bar even, something where you're also opening up the torso. And it's important because, whoops, we need to have full range of motion, right? So again, stretch, range of motion. See, I'm putting it together. And then I'll come off of here, right? Whoops, and not fall over. And then I might go right into a strength exercise like a plank pull. So I would come down here and do a plank pull. It is perfectly okay to do strength and stretch. And sometimes it's not a bad idea to do that as a recovery to make sure that everything's like working well. So for example, I had one of my runners, she was hurting, sit up here, she was hurting around this area, okay? So immediately she's like, do I stretch it? Do I stretch it? And I said, well, first let's do a couple of other things than just, instead of only stretching. So what I had her do was sit like I'm sitting now and hold her leg up like this, and first using her hands to feel if she could feel any like tense spots with something bruised, not feeling good. And she's like, oh, I got a spot. So then I said, okay, now you've got the spot. Use your own fingers. And then you start self-massage. See what I'm doing? I'm just using my fingers and I'm supporting my leg with my hand. But notice that while I'm working on this area, I'm also moving my ankle. You see, because what you want to do is test your range of motion and see, is this, whatever the pain is here, is it limiting my range of motion? Can I still get my ankle, see, to relax? And then you can find the spot again. Now, what you're going to have to do then is things like this. So you've got the spot, and you're like, okay, that's not a pleasant feeling. Part two is to take your hands, keep the calf relaxed, and scrunch your toes while the calf stays relaxed. Because the reason some of these injuries happen is because during your run, your foot was not relaxed. And to relax the foot, I need to do range of motion work in my ankle, right? And then work on making sure my calf is free. So these things are important. And notice I did all this. I do this once a week, by the way. Highly encourage it. And I will still come up out of that exercise. So pretend like I did both legs. And then I'll come up and I'll test. How does that feel in my run, right? So I just did a stretch, right? Stretched my calf. Then I came down, did some self-massage and mobility work. I even tested it. I can retest it on a strength exercise, right? And then you can test. So if that hurt, I'd be like, okay, I'm not ready yet to put too much weight on it. Notice I did a plank so I could offset my weight. I wasn't standing on it. So there's ways that you can test your strength, test your run, right? That plank pull is actually the running motion, but seated. And then I can give you stretch, strength combinations to put together. So for example, the runner that was hurting here, now she did go get it looked at. This is important. So there's a big difference, right, between like a twinge or I think something's hurt. Now, by the way, she wasn't hurt, which is great. She just had, whatever you want to call it. When you hit the ground, I call it a slap injury. When you hit the ground too hard, too far in front of the foot, with a tense ankle, it's almost like a bruise feeling. I mean, that shin is unhappy. So the way to get around that is you have to do mobility exercises that include stretching and also strength train. We've got to stretch and strengthen all of the muscles to help us with our run. So I would love it if you would join us. RunRx.fit, we have a monthly membership program. So when you come in, you work with me for a month. You do gait analysis, you do video check-ins, we have live Zooms, and I give you all of these things. And that way you can start to work them into your routine instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do all of that every day. Absolutely not. But what happens is you start to put it together. So like if you want to do your stretch and strength together, absolutely. And I have everything like isolated. So my stretch and strength sessions are like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, rather than like a full hour, because that's pretty aggressive, right? If I want to run for an hour, which is most of my runners want to run an hour or more if they're training for a distance, then I say, then I will tell you that you will be much happier running that distance if you take these 5 and 10 minute segments of stretch and strength and put it together. Just really balances your triangle. So again, it'd be great to have you join us. If you want to see more of this stretch and strength combo, check out the RunRx Reboot. It's free on YouTube. And then, of course, our app, we've got a bunch of exercises on there, too. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Please ask questions. And thank you so much for watching and subscribing. And I look forward to either seeing you in the membership or just hearing from you in a comment. Thank you.